Here are 50 random facts about Clash of Clans, episode 18. The Greedy Raven has a very cool attention to detail in its colors, which are purple, yellow, and black, which are the same colors as the 3 main resources in the game that he helps heroes to steal: Elixir, Gold, and Dark Elixir. If a Meteor Golem performs their throwing attack while at less than 1% HP, only one Meteorite will spawn where the throw lands, and that Meteor Golem will only spawn with 1 HP, and the other will just disappear. The Longshot, one of 2 initial Guardians, is a female. Speaking of the Longshot, did you know the Guardians are spirits? Yes, like those kinds of spirits, except they're a special kind named Meteor Spirits. And apparently, according to early concepts and the artists who designed them, the armor they are wearing isn't really a choice, because if they didn't have anything on, they would evaporate. When defeated, the Archer Hunter skin sits on the floor and holds her leg, which has an arrow in the knee. This is a reference to a game, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, where a character says,
"I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee."
Out of all decorations and obstacles in the game, dragon-related ones are the most common, having a total of 11, which currently accounts for roughly 6.4% of all decor and obstacles. The first time you could ever change your village name was in early 2015. Before this change, there was a now deleted loading screen hint that said, "You can't change the name of your village, your villagers wouldn't know where they live." Theoretically, the maximum amount of gems you can have at any given time is roughly 2.1 billion, or this number in case you want to know the exact value. This is because that number is the largest number in a 32-bit field, and if you bought one more gem, it would glitch out and suddenly become negative 2.1 billion. You got a little too greedy there. However, this many gems would cost over $15 billion, so I don't think anyone will ever encounter this issue. According to game designer Seth, they almost implemented a wall upgrade limit where he would cap the amount of walls you could upgrade in a 24-hour period. This was because after they removed training times, they were worried that players would dump all their resources into walls. However, luckily for us, they decided against it. If you look closely in the desert scenery, there is a wizard standing on top of a dome. And then, after a bit of looking around, he jumps off of it. This is a reference to the Assassin's Creed games where you climb up certain high places to synchronize, and then when that's done, you typically take a leap of faith into a hay bale. If a Guardian is taken out before being activated, it will stand there stationary as if absolutely nothing happened. HP? What's HP? And then it'll suddenly disappear. Months before its release, the Dragon Duke was teased in the Ruined Kingdom scenery. There are statues of every hero in these stone pillars, right? But there were 6, and that 6th one had a hatched egg. This, of course, was referencing the fact that the Dragon Duke is a dragon, and you know, dragon eggs, yeah. Meteor Golems have a hidden stat, a damage multiplier to walls of 5 times. This used to be 10 times back when they were released. It's probably not displayed though, because them getting stuck on walls is not normally a huge issue, but in the case that they do, the multiplier helps them get out of that situation faster. All skeletons spawned from troops after death are the exact same. The only difference between them is that for bigger troops, it is scaled so that it's bigger. Here's a good example of this. There's a group of troops ranging from small to very large, and the skeletons are all identical, but just a different size. The first skin set to be completed was the Jungle set, which started with the Jungle Champion in April 2021 and was complete with the Jungle King in July 2021. Most decorations have a per village limit of 4 or 5, meaning you can't have more than that number. However, developers do make exceptions every now and then and allow up to 10 per village for certain decorations. Currently, this is the case for the Lugmist Tree, Frozen Stone, Lucky Shoe, Cosmic Lantern, Cherry Blossom, and the Foot Tribute. When you're opening a chest, if you don't tap on it to hammer and upgrade it and wait 30 seconds, a button will appear at the bottom to skip the opening animation. In the Frost Age scenery, there is a Hog Rider chopping some wood with an axe next to a goblin with a bow and arrow on its back. This is referencing the God of War games where the main character Kratos yields an axe just like it, and his son uses a bow and arrow. That's supposed to be the goblin. A builder hut being upgraded doesn't count as a defense, unlike other defenses when they're upgrading. So defense targeting troops will just walk right past it. Totems can turn around. Yeah, I've personally never seen it until now, but if the circumstances are just right, they'll turn around to face their next threat. The hero hall has upgrade differences to its levels that correspond to which hero it unlocked. For example, at level 1, the King's Sword is at the entrance. Level 2, a target with an arrow is above the door for the Queen. At level 3, a dark orb appears at the back for the Medium Prince. Level 5, the Warden's Book appears next to the King's Sword. And at level 7, the World Champion's Spear also appears next to the sword. The Hungry Hound statue is based on Skull, a wolf in Norse mythology that chases the sun until Ragnarok, at which point it devours it. That's why it's called the Hungry Hound, and that's what that fireball looking thing is, the sun. You can see him eating it in one of his poses. Metal events usually contain some hint about something coming soon. For example, during the Meltdown Mayhem, there was a wish lamp that was teasing the next theme, Desert Nights. The Cosmic Rock event showed a meteor hole that aligned with the meteor striking the village and the whole Town Hall 18 update for that matter. The Splash Bash event was teasing the next season's Jelly King skin, and the Wise Warriors event had a lock and chain that was teasing the new hero, the Dragon Duke, which was a prisoner in a fortress. Speaking of telling the future, the Fortune Teller decoration also did the same thing, but with decorations when released. It teased the upcoming Brawny Axe decor, the Wish Lamp, and the Flame Horse decoration. A level 5 log launcher, and for whatever reason only the level 5, will briefly default to its level 4 appearance when stopping in front of a wall. This is likely because someone forgot to put in a idle animation for the level 5 log launcher. The Town Hall 18 upgrade is the only Town Hall upgrade that changes when it's upgrading and when it finishes. This is because Town Hall 18 is essentially a new structure because the previous one was wiped out by a meteor. So builders had to start from scratch. It's similar to how defenses being built for the first time only have the scaffolding, or how defenses being merged look totally different. In a previous episode, we looked at how the Chinese version of Clash of Clans has Town Hall skins. Well, they've expanded on that, and now they have skins for resource buildings like mines, pumps, and storages. Remember the hero altars? They used to have these logos that showed who it belonged to, and they did eventually end up in their banners. Now, while these logos have always been the same, this is not the case with the Queen, which used to have arrows as her altar design. Or maybe it was tiny crossbows, but that's besides the point. This seems to have changed in 2015. This is what a siege machine going backwards looks like. This no longer happens, but years ago, its AI would trip up and cause it to take a detour. The bowler's name in the game files is Troll. Speaking of trolls, up until 2024, he was the only troll in the Clash universe. When the thrower was added, the artist stated that Supercell wanted to expand the troll family, and they followed the same concept as the bowler, cavemen who do sports. Bowler, of course, is into bowling, and the thrower is into javelin throwing. Totems can be healed by a heal spell or a healer. I'm not really sure why you would want to heal it, it's a huge waste, but just in case you didn't know, now you know. Hey, well, but now that we're on the topic, because it's considered a troop, it interacts with most spells. The Rage will make it bigger and change its color, and the Invisibility will make it, well, invisible. Accounts permanently banned or deleted are assigned the name de-identified and are then removed from clans, matchmaking, and their profiles are deleted. However, bugs have caused them to still appear in clans, friend lists, and even matchmaking. You could randomly find one. In June of 2024, there was a Unlimited Heroes event where the more Dark Elixir that was stolen by players, the more days we'd have to enjoy using heroes while they were upgrading. The final milestone was to reach 160 billion Dark Elixir looted. However, developers forgot to put an extra 0, so it ended up being 16 billion. So the event ended up being completed in just half a day. Whoops! The original concept for the Dragon Duke's rocket backpack was an equipment called Better Wings. This equipment allowed him to fly to the other side of the village, leaving a trail of fire. It's very similar to the backpack in mechanics, but the current one doesn't leave a trail, it just damages as it goes. Speaking of original concepts though, the flame blower was called Bellows. Upgrading the builders may seem necessary to upgrade to the later town halls, but it's actually not. You can get to the highest town hall with all level 1 builders. In fact, if you wanted to and somehow managed to, you can get there with just one level 1 builder hut. No one's stopping you. Well, except for the tutorial, but people have figured that out. According to game designer Seth, one of the original ideas for the builder base was for it to be the second village and add no more town halls after. And eventually they would add a third village and maybe a fourth. However, that's not what the players wanted, and they eventually added a new town hall after a long hiatus. The Super Yeti was accidentally released in March of 2025 after an update. At the time, its stats weren't final, so players got to play with a pretty busted version of it for a couple days. It would get removed and then officially launched 2 months later. The Minion Prince was originally going to be a lot more like a brutish melee thug. However, according to one artist responsible for designing him, he suggested turning him into a prince instead to fit the other roster of heroes who were all noble. So the thug minion hero became the Minion Prince. Interestingly, this concept of minion thugs wasn't scrapped, it instead inspired the henchmen, which are supposed to be his thug bodyguards. When the helpers were first added into the game, they originally had a total time saved feature. This kept track of how much time it had saved you. However, it was almost immediately removed because it was bugged right off the rip. Because of some bugs, it was showing insane numbers and not tracking any of the data correctly. And unfortunately, this will likely never come back as the player data for it is likely inaccurate from all the bugs. You may or may not have noticed that very few skins have a special badge under their rarity, only about a dozen. These are collection badges. It tells you which collection they were from and from what year. There are currently 4 categories to these badges: Lunar New Year, Anniversary, World Championship, and Supercell Make. Unfortunately, as cool as they were, the last skin to receive such a badge was in 2023. The only one likely to come back is the Supercell Make one if they ever add another fan-made skin. If a troop happens to exit the map by either a bug or intended mechanics, Mama P.E.K.K.A. will follow them out of the map. There is a limit to this though. The walkable area around the Goblin maps seems to be only about 6 to 8 tiles out. The Revenge Tower was originally known as the Debris Tower and had a different description that read, "The Debris Tower becomes empowered as other buildings fall." According to the lore, the Dragon Duke was originally imprisoned at this dragon fortress due to bouts of intense rage. In other words, he has anger issues. According to game designer Seth, again, a couple of his facts in this video, one of the earliest concepts for the clan capital was where every player would have their own district and they were responsible for building that up. So in a full clan, there would be 50 districts and all of them probably contributed to the capital piece strength and defenses. However, this never made it out of the concept stage because initial reaction were negative toward needing to build a third village. Before release, spells from the spell tower had a triangular shape effect where it dropped, which is seen throughout all of Town Hall 15's theme. Triangles are everywhere, it's like the unofficial symbol of magic. However, the effect never made it into the live game. If a royal ghost runs out of its invisibility while walking through walls, despite not being able to walk through walls unless invisible, he'll just keep walking through them anyway. Hey, wait a minute, that's illegal. The clock tower is currently the only building in the game that has its changes stated in its description when upgrading it, literally telling you how much faster the clock tower will get. So it doesn't just provide stats, it tells you. When you first enter the builder base, there are 9 structures you need to repair, which include the battle machine, gem mine, clock tower, even a cannon. However, it was originally intended for the archer tower to be repaired as well. Its asset was found in the game files, but it never made it in the final release, and you instead build one. The Season 3 crafted defenses all have the same dark green grass under them, which is a reference to where they came from, the builder base. Former community manager Darian once said that developers wouldn't let him name things because all of his ideas were terrible. However, he did name 2 things before leaving the team, the scatter shot and the mighty yak. But yeah, those are 50 random facts about Clash of Clans, and as you can see, random they were. Facts that nobody asked for. But hey, no matter how random they get, I always have a good time hunting these down. I gather these through the months, and then I finally have enough for a video, and bada boom, bada bam. With that said though, I hope you guys enjoyed. But hey, before you go, YouTube thinks you'll like this next video, so check it out. As always, thanks for watching, and have a good video. Peace.